sorry, was I talking too loud? Did I give you a fright? I'm sorry. So he's gotten a little fright when I started talking. We've been sitting so nice and quietly watching him as he's been watching the guinea fowl running around all over the place here, and he's found himself a little bit of shade, which is the perfect spot to rest on a hot afternoon like this. He's got a nice shady area. There's lots of prey animals that potentially will come down and drink, so you'll find as it starts to cool off, things like impala, things like nyala, they're going to come and drink here, and it is the prime place for a young leopard to be able to hone his skills in hunting. And we've already seen Hosana twice hunting from these water holes and trying to make use of places like Treehouse and Twin Dams to be able to stalk prey items that come for water in hot weather. So hopefully that will be this afternoon. We're going to be very patient and sit with him, even though he might be quite restful during the afternoon and he probably might sleep a little bit. You can see he's hot, he's panting, and I'm not surprised. He's got a little bit of a belly on him, and he has been walking. We've obviously found him and he was walking in this direction. Oh, nice big yawn. Hello, boy. And he's got a nice full belly, which means that I'm pretty sure he's hot. He's built up a lot of residual heat by spending time walking in this hot sunshine, and so I think he's going to be resting here probably for quite some time, unless something comes along that he wants to potentially stalk. So something like these guinea fowl that we saw earlier, they might be that the situation where he gets up and looks at them and tries to go after them, although most of them have drifted off now and he's still kind of non-plussed by it and he's still lying in the shade. Now I believe lots of you are super excited to see Hosana. Well, so am I. I've had not the best of days today. It's been a bit of an average day, and I was having a bit of a bad afternoon when the petrol spilled all over me, and I was thinking to myself, well, hopefully the bush will give us something to cheer us up, and you cannot get any more cheerful than a beautiful male leopard walking around in the afternoon as you come towards one of the more scenic spots in the reserve down towards the Mulawati and Twin Dam. So super excited that we managed to find him and managed to get him on camera, and that we're going to be able to spend the whole afternoon with him. The exciting thing is that he came around, he seems to be watching, so it seems to be a little bit on the restless side. And where are you going, Hosana? It's very hot. Maybe that's where he's deciding that he's going to lie. There was a branch right in his face, and so that's a little bit of a better position. You can see his little tongue is out, and that's all just to try and help him with cooling down a little bit. When the tongue is out like that and mouth is open, basically what's happening is there's a huge amount of evaporation that's taking place off the tongue. So as he's breathing, he's getting rid of moisture that's evaporating, and that causes a cooling effect on the blood, and that cooler blood then goes back into the body, and it just helps control his temperature. Remember, they can't sweat like us, and they also are covered in a fur coat. Now if I was Hosana and I was covered in a fur coat this afternoon, I can tell you that I would be highly uncomfortable, and so it's no surprise that there is a little bit of a tongue hanging out and a little bit of a situation where he's panting and trying to just keep himself nice and cool. But isn't he just growing up into such a beautiful individual? Earlier when we saw him at first, he's starting to develop a bit of a dewlap. If you look at him now, you can actually see that neck is starting to get that typical male shape where it pretty much just goes straight up. There's not really much of a chin, so he's really developing in that regard. And because he's full-bellied, it's just making it that much better when we're seeing him. He's looking that much bigger and that much stronger and that much sort of more impressive. And the more I see Hosana, the more he's kind of growing on me, and the more he's developing into an incredible specimen, and one that hopefully will spend a lot more time around this area. Now I know he is going to be sleepy. I know he's going to probably spend most of his afternoon in this position, but like I say, it's going to be worth being patient here. We know from previous experience that there are animals that drink at Twin Dams. It is a place that he likes to stalk animals from, and so for us it's going to be worth sitting and waiting. We might end up with something really quite special if we do sit and wait here, and well, why would you want to go anywhere else at the end of the day, other than the fact that it's quite hot in the sun? It's still beautiful to be here. There's lots of birds that are going to call, and who knows what else is going to arrive at the dam as we continue our afternoon here at Twin Dams. But he seems to have settled down now. Most of the guinea fowl, like I say, have moved off. They're not making near as much noise as what they were earlier. Terry, you want to know how long leopards usually live for? Well, it depends. Male and females tend to live slightly different lengths of time. On average, in areas like this where there's a very high density of leopard, we find a situation where the male leopards normally live to about 12 to 14 years. Now, the reason why the males only live that long is because their life is very rough. They've got to go nomadic from their mom and find their own territory, which means they've got to cross multiple big males' paths and try and get away from those, as well as all kinds of other the territory of their own. Once they've done that, they've then got to defend that territory from other rival males and nomadic males that might come in. And then later in life, when they reach that sort of 12, 13, 14 years, there's younger individuals that start to push in, these young, well-developed, big young individuals that are full of spirit. They come in and they then want to start pushing those older males. And so you get a situation where those males will then push in, and those older ones get killed. So they tend to be a little bit shorter. Females a little bit longer, because they're not having to defend territory as much and try and force themselves to get an area. They're normally given a little section of their mom's territory to survive in. You end up with a situation where they normally go between sort of 14 and 16 years old. That's not always the case, though. We do see female leopards dying earlier than that, and we do see male leopards living longer than 14, but it's on average 12 to 14 for males, 14 to 16 for the females is typical for this area. If you go to places where there's a little bit less of a density, you might find that the males will live slightly longer and the females slightly longer, although here in the Sabi Sands, there's two of the oldest females that I've ever heard of in the wild have been seen. So there was one female that got to 20 and another one that got to 19 and a half, which is incredibly old, even in a zoo environment or a captive environment. And so those two really did an amazing job to get to that age. I didn't do it. You're asking what a dewlap is, or explain what a dewlap is. Well, a dewlap here in South Africa is what we refer to the big fold of skin that runs underneath the chin of an animal. So buffalo males get it, big male leopards get it. You'll see it in even eland up in the Masai Mara. They get this fold of skin that starts to hang from the chin down towards the chest, and the older they get, the more that skin starts to hang, and it's almost like a way of showing females and that they are big dominant individuals, and it's known as a dewlap. And you also get it in cows, funny enough, too. So it's more just a signal to other individuals within that species that this is an older, more dominant individual, and one that's in the prime of his life. When they get these big dewlaps, it serves to just make them appear larger, make them appear more sort of hostile, more, I suppose, brazen towards any other males, and they're not more attractive to the females. So it's just, that's why they have it. There's no other physiological reason for it. I suppose it does help to protect a little bit in leopards. It will protect their necks if they're fighting with other males. It's a lot of loose skin, and so that male might bite towards that skin and not get hurt there. So it just depends on them. But in things like buffalo and eland, not so much. It's not really there to design to protect them from the jaws of another eland or buffalo. It's more just to show dominance towards females. But I think little Hosana is about to take a very, very long nap. Although there is another vehicle that is going to come join us at some stage, that would probably mean that he might just see him popping up his head every now and then. There's also a beautiful breeze that's just kicked up now. It's a nice cool breeze that's blowing, and it's coming straight towards us. So you might find every now and then he'll pick up a scent in that breeze or hear something, and he'll pop his head up and just scan around just to see what's going on. And so we might see a lot of sleeping for now, but as that sun starts to set, I'm pretty sure we might get some action. Now we're going to, like I say, be patient with Hosana. I'm pretty sure at some point he is going to get up and he is going to move and potentially even maybe hunt around this waterhole. And while we do that, I believe Taylor McCurdy has had some luck of her own and has found a sleepy cat too.